We can now go across to France 24's Leila Molana-Allen standing by in Beirut for us. Leila, how are residents in the city doing today? This is a blast that seems to have impacted everyone, including yourself.
Residents are shell-shocked. People walking around the streets trying to sweep up debris. All morning the sound was of broken glass, some of it still falling out of windows and periodically being swept up from the ground. Pieces of piping, electricity wires, people going back into their homes after the terrified escape of yesterday, trying to see what they could salvage and to see if their homes are still livable or not. And that's the scene everywhere in the streets. There's blood drops as you walk along the road. There's bits of tarmac ripped up as you get further down towards the port. And then, of course, many people still in hospital and still trying to trace the many, many missing. There's been an Instagram page set up for more than 100 missing people, and many more that people are talking about, people sending around desperate messages. But of course, phone lines and internet lines constantly going down because of the issues here. Very little power, even less than there was before at the moment. So people feeling pretty desperate and just trying to figure out that all their loved ones are okay and where they're going to spend the next night.
Leila, there has been dissatisfaction with the ruling elite in Lebanon for months now. Then on top of that, we have this economic crisis, which keeps getting worse by the week. If this is in fact negligence, the cause of this blast, what happens then?
What happens then? That's the question. Many people here would say, well, there have been so many examples of government negligence, government corruption, people here say, protesters say, in the past, and it's done nothing with successive governments. They say they're still faced by the same sectarian politicians or those linked to them as they always have been ever since the end of the Civil War. So many people here saying nothing will be done. On the other hand, this is a completely different level. This is an explosion like really nothing that's ever rocked Beirut before. There wasn't even a single incident really like this during the Civil War, many people saying, and particularly it all being concentrated in that downtown area, because not only is there the massive loss of life and the huge injuries that we've seen, but also the loss of the port, which is Beirut's absolute lifeline to trade and getting things into the country, including medical supplies and food that they desperately need. So if it does turn out that this stock was indeed left there for 6 years, and as a result of that negligence, the successive governments doing nothing about it, this has essentially been inflicted upon the people of Lebanon by government negligence. Perhaps this is the turning point. Perhaps this is a level at which people will say no more. But other protesters, people who were protesting before, now desperately trying to figure out how to rebuild their lives, they say, we took to the streets last time. We tried to get them out. What more can we do? Nothing will work. And they've let us down in this horrific way once again.
Leila, in the last hour, the Elysee Palace here in France has announced that the French president will be traveling to Lebanon. How will Emmanuel Macron's visit be perceived where you are? Because he is going to be meeting members of the political establishment.
So this is, again, the problem. Now, what we've been seeing in the last few months, of course, historically, Lebanon in times of trouble has reached out to its Western partners, France being one of those strongest partners. And in recent months, what we've seen is this time round with this economic crisis, with this serious government mismanagement, those partners saying no more. We will not help you anymore unless you actually put in some of the reforms we've been asking you for years. IMF negotiations stalling over the same issue. And of course, when the French Foreign Minister Le Drian visited a couple of weeks ago, many people hoped he was coming with a lot of money. Instead, he said, no, I'm putting my foot down. What we said before, you must help us to help you. You must do something. So many people, either very angry after he left or feeling for once the international community was right and they were not supporting these politicians who for many years don't seem to have been able to help Lebanon along. So this visit does seem like it will be very different. Suddenly promises of aid pouring in from these partners, including France. So, of course, many people hoping that there will be help with the rescue effort, but others saying if they're simply going to work with the existing politicians who've shown that they cannot implement the kind of reforms Lebanon needs to save itself, then what's the point? The money will go where it's always gone and it'll be used in the way these politicians want it to be used. So people very divided over how the international community should help and where that money should go.
Leila, thank you very much for that. Leila Molana-Allen reporting there for us from Beirut.